minus 9 minutes. Minus 8 minutes. Minus 7 minutes. Minus 6 minutes. Minus 5 minutes. 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
And we have liftoff. Welcome, everybody, to the RP Show on a Tuesday. We're coming at you on the Game Plus Television Network. That's coast to coast across Canada and 32 U.S. states. And to quote the ageless John Frenzy, Hall of Fame writer broadcaster, it's just going to be fantastic. Mike Richards coming up in hour 2 from Fan 960 Calgary, the iconic Canadian broadcaster, sports broadcaster. He is on the Mount Rushmore of sports talk hosts. We established that. So too maybe is this guy, Darren Moose Dupont. Johnny Toronto, as I like to call him. Johnny Toronto is back on the show. How you doing, Moose?
I'm good, man. It's good to be on with you. And I got to just tell you, I love the new set that you got in the new studio, the home studio. I love it. I think it's great.
What do you love about it?
I don't know. It's just a good look, dynamic. I like it. It's different. You got your dad's goalie mask back there. Maybe I love it because I'm on the shelf over your left shoulder. Maybe I like that.
If I could have switched sides, you'd be more featured more prominently if you were on the other side of the thing. Thanks, Moose. Yeah, it's very comfortable. I'm enjoying it. And by the way, Moose took the plunge and announced his next career move. We'll get to that later on, but this is a short segment, the opening segment here, the warm-up. We open with the big story. And I want to talk about the Blue Jays, and then I'm going to tell you why we're not going to talk about the Blue Jays. But those guys in the control room at Game Plus, as you know, are huge Blue Jays fans. And Trey Yesavage struck out 9 batters over 5 innings last night to set a Toronto record for a major league debut. And George Springer hit a tie-breaking single in the 11th as the visiting Blue Jays won their 5th game in a row with a 2-1 decision over the Tampa Bay Rays on Monday. And I swear, Darren, it's like everything is coming up millstone for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm seeing all the coverage and everything, and I'm just getting swept up in it. But and you're there in Toronto, so I'm going to get your take on what's going on there. The city must be going crazy. Here, as I'm back home in South Florida, everybody has a different team, okay? You saw people writing in here yesterday, or maybe you didn't, about the Braves. I've had a guy came up to me the other day here in South Florida. He's like, do you think the Mets are going to slip out of the wild card spot? I'm like, bro, I don't know. I'm a Blue Jays fan, and that's it. I got my mind full on football and hockey and everything in life. I'm not following the Mets or the Braves, but I am following the Blue Jays. And what is it like in Toronto right now?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Everybody's excited. We've moved into this this place where we're no longer like afraid to be excited. You know, for a while it was, it felt like you were afraid to be excited because is this real? We didn't expect to be this good. And then everyone's like, Jays are good. We're pretty good. And they're now just like patiently waiting for the playoffs, hoping that they can lock up the pennant. A little nervous about that. But man, that kid last night got the opportunity to play. And, the feeling was just give the guys some darn run support so he can get a win. At least they can celebrate a team win after that great effort last night. But it's just good story after good story after good story. I know they're a little nervous about Bo Bichette and the injury, but it's a great story. That was a phenomenal night last night.
9 strikeouts is great for anybody. And I thought it was an MLB record. Turns out it's a Blue Jays record, but still, that's pretty awesome. And I don't know enough about this. Like you Savage, I saw Arash's Instagram post on it saying it's very uncharacteristic of this Blue Jays front office to bring up a prospect like that when they did. I'm a little like you. I would word it differently. You worded it very well, but you said it's okay to get on board now. My thing was sort of like everybody was waiting for the shoe to drop, not thinking that this was real. Do you know what I mean? But now it's the horse is out of the barn. It's a 5-game lead. Their magic number, I think, is down to 6. Am I right? To clinch the pennant. So, yeah, it's all okay. And Brent from Wellington, Florida, and I went to TD Ballpark in Dunedin. It was the last spring training game, and I could not believe you couldn't get another soul in that park with a shoehorn and how positive the vibe was. I'm like, it's just because it's Florida and they're all excited to break camp and head up north. No, it's lasted all year. It's all year. So here's my thing. I will watch for as long as the Blue Jays run continues. And then whether they're in the World Series or not, I'll watch the World Series because I always do. But I'm not really watching the other races because I got football to get here too. And hockey's starting up right away. But how about you as far as the other pennant races go?
Yeah, I'm with you. I am occupied on hockey coming up, football, and hockey started in a lot of cases when you look at the junior hockey circuits and university hockey and all the rest and the other, and rookie camps and stuff, and football. So no, I'm following loosely, but it's Jays and then football, then hockey, and then maybe the rest of baseball.
So moving on, point 2. Monday Night Football doubleheader. The visiting Los Angeles Chargers scored 17 points in the first half and then hung on for a 20-9 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders in NFL play. In the early game, quarterback Baker Mayfield led an 11-play, 80-yard drive capped by Rachaad White's 2-yard touchdown run with 6 seconds to go. And the visiting Tampa Bay Buccaneers rallied past the Houston Texans 20-19 in the opening game of the Monday night doubleheader. And yesterday, Scruffy was on with us, and I said, what's going to be the better game here? And he said the early one. I'm like, no, how could it be? No, it's got to be the game in Vegas. It's Vegas. No, Scruffy was right. And DeBuck said the same thing. The early game was unbelievable. And, we're going to have to get to a break here before long. But, Baker Mayfield, you know how much I love him. Mike Florio was talking a lot about it today. How Baker wasn't good enough for Cleveland. He wasn't good enough for Carolina, and he was only stopgap in L.A. for as long as Matt Stafford was hurt. But as soon as Stafford got back, Baker got shown the door. I just love me a comeback story. I don't know what it is about Baker Mayfield, Darren. He's not very big. I met him at Super Bowl, but he's probably got a big heart, bigger than anybody. And hard to not cheer for a guy like that. That was a hell of a football game last night.
It really was a hell of a football game. And you're right, and I saw this about Baker. He only led the Browns to their first, playoff win in forever, and then comes back and what are they 8-9 the next year or something like that, and he's not good enough for the Browns after one, tough year. Basically got cut in Carolina, and then on 2 days figured out the whole playbook in LA and led them to a big win and a game-winning drive. Baker's got moxie, man, and he can play, and he's just a fun story. And that was fun to watch. On the fourth down run, was it 10 yards or 11 yards? That was great, and leading that touchdown drive was fun to watch.
Yeah, pro football players are pro football players, and when I met him at Super Bowl on Radio Row, it was in Vegas, he's just smiling. He reminds me a lot of Neil Hughes. If you're ever around Neil Hughes, the Métis Missile, number 32, Rider Hall of Famer, just always smiling, somewhat quiet, thick, very thick, but not that tall. And just, like I say, I just love a redemption story. Not good enough for Cleveland. How they doing, by the way? Anyways, we've got a lot to get to. I will tell you that the Western Dodge text line is open, 902-518-3033. Let's get her rolling. And the YouTube chat as well. And we'll be right back after a very brief first pause. We're live on Game Plus Television, YouTube Live podcast, and 1700 Mission Radio.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and
Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Nazareth's Canadian Farewell Tour is coming to Moose Jaw. Live at Temple Garden Center, October 17th. With special guest, Lee Aaron. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or sasktix.ca.
Hour one is brought to you in part by the Mad Greek Eatery. From classic to loaded, pizza night starts at the Mad Greek Eatery. Order online, pick up, or dine in. Check them out at themadgreekeatery.com. Before we continue on with what I think is going to be the funnest of the Quick Six show topics, Moose, would you mind telling the folks, I was waiting for you to make it LinkedIn official, and you did, your new career move. Can you tell the world about it, please?
Yeah, thank you. It was really exciting to put out the announcement. I've joined Home Team Network. So the folks over there, Chris and Logan and Tanner and everybody at Home Team had been reaching out. We've been connected and went through a bit of a negotiation. And I've joined them as an executive producer. So behind the scenes, get to, do a lot of the things that we've done here in building this with some pretty cool and exciting organizations across North America in sports. So that's really fun, and some play-by-play opportunities as well. So it's exciting to get started. And another thing to add to the plate. It's not that and removing a bunch of stuff. It's adding to the plate.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that, and thanks for slumming with us on a day here, finding some time to slum with your old gang.
I'll always find time for you.
Congratulations, Moose. He's joined Home Team, and I know those Cowboys. I've known them a long time. Logan and Tanner, as you know, so congratulations. They got a good one there in Moose. Now, as I say, as we roll along, point 3 isn't really a news item, but I'll be honest with you, as I was driving to the gym this morning, listening to Joe Rose on WQAM, and he took a break from bitching about the Dolphins and how bad they are and talked about Tom Brady. And I was waiting for this all to come out. I was watching the game last night, and Tom Brady is in a suite, which we would all expect. He's an owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, but he's got a headset on, and he's not broadcasting. He's the minority owner of the Raiders, and I found out that it's 5%, not 10%, but whatever. It's still enough of an NFL team. And Tom Brady's in amongst the coaches. Everybody gather around and tell me what if you saw the same thing I did. As you know, what's that Leonardo DiCaprio clip? That he's got a coach's headset on, and he's in a suit, which we all knew was going to happen. Like Mike Florio, who is my favorite NFL analyst, was on this a year ago, saying, how is this okay that Tom Brady is an owner and also broadcasting on Fox, the number one color commentator on the NFL on Fox? It's against league rules in the National Football League to own a team and have any other capacity anywhere else. And the owners discussed this in the offseason because Florio banged the gong so loud on it for all year. The owners talked about it and decided, it's Tom. Let him do what he wants. And they looked the other way on the bylaws. And that's our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. Should Tom Brady be allowed to be an owner and also a broadcaster? And it is split right down the schnoz, Moose, 50-50 on the vote. And if before I get your take, Ken in Mississauga writes in, he says, Rodgers is both an owner and national broadcaster, so why not Tom Brady? No. It's not even in the same ballpark. And Ken, you're a bright guy. You know that. I'm going to vote no. It's not right. But I'd love to know your thoughts as a Tom Brady disciple.
Yeah, I'm okay with it because it's Tom Brady. It's one of those situations where, look, I can't really give you a reason other than it's Tom Brady. This is the parent saying, because I said so. Why is it the rule? Why are we allowing this? Because I said so. Because it's Tom Brady. There's more to that. I mean, I think Tom Brady's got enough integrity that he's not going to be going into meetings and then divulging info. But at the same time, if you know something and you can make a decision based on information, subconsciously or not, how does that not just happen? Like, it is very dangerous. My thing is like, you're on the team, but why do you got to be in the coach's booth and have a headset on? My second question, though, is like, who was on the other end of that headset? Maybe he was, was he listening to the broadcast? Was he communicating with the sideline? Who was he connected to? Was he listening to a podcast? I don't know what Tom Brady was doing in the booth, but it just doesn't look good, And it's one thing to like have the special privilege. It's not a great thing to then rub it in everybody's face. And like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what it felt like last night because everybody's talking about it today.
Yeah, I don't know that it's rubbing it in people's face. It's just, it is what it is. They're not hiding anything. Anything. That's what it is. And to be honest, people, if you don't know, gather around because I'm going to tell you how these leagues work. And Darren kind of encapsulated that all in his little takeaway on this. The owners sat around and just said, what's best for the NFL? What's best? Oh, it's to have Tom Brady involved in as many aspects as possible. That's what's best for the NFL. Because the coaches and maybe even some GMs will be livid about this. I knew from the second Tom Brady joined that ownership group that he was going to be very involved. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Mike Davis on the air here. He's the head coach and general manager of the Vegas Nighthawks Indoor Football League team, neighbors of the Raiders and Tom Brady. And I said to Mike, how much involvement do you think Brady has in football operations with the Raiders? You know what his answer was, Mike? Or Darren? He said, more than they let on. I mean, aside from Mark Davis's goofy haircut, he's not a dumb guy. If you've got Tom Brady there, I would hope you would use him. To be honest, you said rubbing in the face. No, it's just they're not hiding it. And to me, that's very, very refreshing. But I still think it's wrong because if he's doing color properly, and you're going to go in and we're going to talk about this Rams-Huskies game on Friday night that you're doing, you go in and you talk to both coaches, right? Names escape me now. Of those coaches, that's not wrong.
Mark McConkey.
Yeah, Scott Flory, Mark McConkey. I'm sorry. But you're going to go in and talk to those coaches. If Brady's doing color right, which he would, he's talking to other coaches of other teams and getting valuable intel. And that's why the coaches would be mad. And I think the coaches are mad. Mike Florio is upset at ProFootballTalk.com because he's a lawyer by trade. This is against league laws. So why is it being allowed to happen? It's because it's Tom Brady. But the way I framed that, does that make a little more sense to you that it's refreshing that they're not hiding anything?
It is. That is the one thing that's great is they aren't hiding anything. It's out in the open. But again, I go back to the integrity of Brady and the relationships, and that's his job now is to build those relationships. When I started in this business, when you go into those coaches meetings, those coaches, those players, they're guarded. They don't want to tell you about injuries. They don't want to tell you about formations they're going to use. And you ask the questions and you try and say, hey, do you think we'll see a little of this on Friday? What are you planning on doing with this guy? How close is he to getting ready to play? Tell me about this scheme, blah, blah, blah. And they're a little guarded and they give you the football speak, but you build the trust. And now going into Friday, I know how they're going to deploy some young stars. I know how the backup quarterback who may be a little hurt, and this is just general, but I know how close he is to coming back or what the injury is because they trust that I need to know the information to be prepared, that I might see a guy more than we let on because he's not on the depth chart, but also to not divulge, trade secrets on the air or to the other team. Because Mark knows that after I talk to him, I'm going into a room to talk to Scott. So he knows that I'm going to kind of keep that to myself. And I hope that's the same situation with Brady. It doesn't look good, but I think he's got enough integrity not to, misuse that trust.
And he doesn't probably need to go in on a Friday or Saturday and talk to the coaches of the teams that he's broadcasting the game for on Sunday. He probably doesn't need to do that. He can roll into the box and just call what he sees. But from what I understand, he has been meeting with those coaches. There's rules around it. I don't know how deep or how far it goes. But anyways, Steve is watching. Steve Smith in Steinbach, Manitoba. He writes in on the Western Dodge text line. He says, Tom Brady does what he wants because he is TB12. Yeah, but if you peel this back even more, Tom Brady wasn't always the darling of the NFL. Let's not forget that he was suspended for 4 games because of Deflategate, refused to give up his cell phone before a grand jury I'll stop short of saying an indictment, but it did go to a grand jury. I'm not familiar with American law, but I remember thinking, is there not more important things in the U.S. to deal with than frickin' footballs? But apparently there wasn't. John Ohm writes in, he says, if Jerry Jones could break the NFL rules in marketing years ago with Pepsi and Nike, Tom Brady is NFL royalty and can break the rules. It's Tom freaking Brady. Come on, man. Well, it's a little different with Jerry, but not different. I assume you probably haven't had time to watch the Cowboys documentary on Netflix, have you? Because people are still talking about it.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through it. So I love that one. It's good.
Okay, were you at the point where Jerry Jones took the NFL owners to court?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember reading the news stories on the air at the time in the mid to late 90s when he did that. I get what you're saying, John. But in the case of Jerry Jones, it's somewhat different. But I'll say this again: Tom hasn't always been the NFL darling. I mean, Patriots fans loved him, but most everybody else outside the New England hated him. But all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, he's become the darling of the NFL. And how and why do you think that happened?
You know, it's funny. I don't know. I mean, winning sure helped. And I think as Tom got older, he got more likable. I think when he came into the league, you know, obviously as a young player, hard to not like him. I mean, I don't think anybody hated him right away. But then when everybody's so good, and it's Belichick and Brady, they were the evil empire and everybody hated them because they were winning so much. And, you know, that's just natural. That happens everywhere. But then I think the older he got and people started writing him off saying, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. This is going to be it. And he kept, he kept proving the doubters wrong. And then he went to Tampa and won when everybody said he probably can't win without Bill. So I think he became a little bit of an underdog, and that made people like him. And he's the face of the league, and he looks great, and he speaks well, and he really doesn't say anything bad about anybody. He does a lot of things right.
Well, I'm interested to see where this goes because I voted no. I don't think that it's right that he's in the booth the other night calling a game, and then he's in the coach's suite with his own team. That's not right. Yeah, can you agree with me? That's not right.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I said rub it in their face. I know they're just living life out in the open. It's not really doing anything nefarious. But I mean, yeah, why you got to have a headset on? Sit in the stands. At least be more discreet and put some earbuds in. Why you got to be in the thing in the coaches suite with the headphones on? It's not good.
Well, just the amazing thing again, Florio's been banging this drum. I listen to him every day. I listen to him today. He's been banging that drum for a year. And it was just like, you people are just now figuring out this is a conflict of interest. My God. Okay. I could spend all day on this, but moving on in the quick six show topics, Sidney Crosby addressing the media in Pittsburgh yesterday as he was delivering season tickets for the Penguins, saying, quote, "This is where I want to be," unquote. That reached my radar here in South Florida, so I'm sure it's on yours that Sid doesn't want to be traded in Pittsburgh. That does not surprise me. I said last week he'll finish his career as a Penguin. Does this surprise you?
No, at the end of the day, it doesn't. A little bit, but no. I mean, look at the legacy Mario has, Penguins, right? I mean, that's what Sid is going to have, and I think that's good for Sid. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for a lot of things. Penguins fans won't like this, and I know a couple, but it also means that by Sid doing that, he's giving up on winning another cup. Not that I don't think Pittsburgh can win another cup, but that's really what you're saying is, you know what? Winning's not the most important thing now. It's cementing this legacy. It's being true to this organization, the fans, the people of Pittsburgh, and staying where I've been and being happy and staying in Pittsburgh, committing to the organization. That's what it means. It doesn't mean I want to win a cup and we're close to winning, because Pittsburgh's not close to winning a cup right now. They could turn this around in a couple of years, and Sid, he takes care of himself. He can play 2, 3 more years, 4 more years, 5 more years. I don't know how long he can play, but maybe longer. But it tells you that that's more important to him right now than winning.
More on that in a moment. When we come back, we'll continue the warm-up. From the studio to your closet, shop RP Show gear at rodpeterson.com. Click on RP Show store, T-shirts, hoodies, hats, and travel mugs. We'll get into more football, Canadian variety when we return. Moose good enough to join us from Tirana. We're live on the Game Plus television network and various other platforms.
Country's hottest party is coming. James Barker Band, Bud Light Buckle Up Tour 2025. Live across Canada with special guests Ryan and Rory. Yeah, let's keep it November 20th, Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca. James Barker Band Live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
RP Show continues. Hour one brought to you in part by Outlaw Communications. Creativity isn't a hobby, it's a way of life. We craft bold strategies, sharp leadership training, and content that makes people lean in and listen. Oh, kind of like the RP Show. That's why we get along so well. Moose is with us in Toronto. One more segment. Allie has shown up from Texarkana. Hi, Allie. We just finished the hockey talk. We can continue it if you wish. For instance, we talked about Sidney Crosby saying he doesn't want to be traded. John Ohm in Winnipeg says Sidney Crosby is a lifetime Penguin. He will move from player to management. Bet on it. Bet on it. Yeah, he will. But my fifth point of the Quick Six show topics, and I should re-up for everybody what we have talked about so far, is the Blue Jays, Trey Savage setting a Blue Jays record for 9 strikeouts for an MLB debut. Unbelievable last night as the Jays won in Tampa, 5th in a row. Monday Night Football doubleheader. Tom Brady, should he be allowed to be an owner and a broadcaster? I say no. Moose says yes. Point 4, Sidney Crosby. And now, point 5 is CFL Week 16. And to be honest, Darren, you're a huge Canadian football fan. You'll be going in to broadcast that Hardy Cup preview Friday night in Saskatoon, Huskies and Rams. But look at this. Friday night, bear with me, everybody. Montreal Alouettes at Toronto. That is the lid lifter. And I know the Argos fans are all excited. Friday Night Football's broadcast crew is going to be there. Luke Wilson et al. Do you know if the Argos win that, Darren? It'll be their 6th win. It would be their 4th in a row. They'd be tied with Montreal for 2nd in the East. The Argos, who at one time were 2-8, could host a playoff game. now. Welcome to the CFL, brother. It's been the zaniest year ever. I could see this happening, couldn't you?
I feel like we could go back, some crack editor could go back to our show from years past and just make a compilation of us saying, this is the zaniest year ever, every year, just flipping the counter. But that's the CFL, man. That's the CFL. And that's why we love it, is it's wide open. And these games matter because you need to stay in the race. But what matters is being hot in October and into November. That's what matters. And the Argos are rolling. Maybe the Alouettes got, there was the get right game for Montreal with their win over Saskatchewan. But man, it's going to be something down the stretch.
We got a ton of comments coming in from the viewers. I'm going to push them to when Moose adjourns after this segment. But I will say one, Kirk in Toronto writes that he says the Blue Jays must be in a race for first in their division because the TV ratings are through the Sky Dome roof. They average 1.2 to 1.6 million viewers per game. That's from Kirk. And I'll be honest, he's one guy that I've been dogging on a lot, and I got to let it go because he was the guy that said, my Argos are done. I'm going to watch the Blue Jays now. Lo and behold, the Argos are on the cusp of winning 4 in a row and hosting a playoff game. And what I've realized, why it upsets me is I get held to what I say personally and professionally every damn day, all day. And it pisses me off when other people aren't held to those standards. But that's fine. That's just sports fans. And to be honest, I feel that way about the Dallas Cowboys. Mind you, I'm mostly off that bandwagon period. But I'm just saying, if you say it, mean it. But fans just aren't that way. But that's a hell of a kickoff game Friday night, Montreal to Toronto. As a matter of fact, I will ask you what you think Canada's game of the week will be because you won't be on with me tomorrow. BC is at Calgary later on Friday night, second game of the doubleheader. And then Saturday, it's Winnipeg at Ottawa and Edmonton and Hamilton. What you thinking?
It's the 2 Friday night games for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan. I grew up on Friday night football. And Friday night football to me is the CFL. I love Friday night football. And so for me, it's that doubleheader. I'll say it's BC Calgary because we're trying to figure out, who's, where those teams are going to slot in. The West is so tight. I mean, both sides are really tight, the East and the West. But I'll go Calgary, BC is the game of the week. But it's Friday night football for me.
We've ripped through the comments, through the points here in the Quick Six show topics. So while I have you here, James Mooner Warnicki writes in and says, Moose, if you can say, who do you see winning the Hardy Cup? For everybody, this is Canadian University football. Darren's going to be calling it on Canada West TV Friday night. Rams at Huskies. Do you want to take a swing at that question and how much you're looking forward to Friday night's game in Saskatoon?
I'm really looking forward to this game Friday night. I think, it's a potential Hardy Cup preview. The West isn't getting enough respect across the country in the top 10. I think a Western team from the Canada West will be in the Vanier Cup in Regina. I really believe that. It's in Regina. The Rams have a unbelievably good offense, and they can play. They can run the ball with anybody. Marshall Erickson is just on a massive tear. But the Huskies offense, and this team is as deep as I've seen them. They're as good as I've seen them. They've got a quarterback who's got a cannon of an arm, and he's protecting the football in Anton Ammonrood. This is going to be a heavyweight tilt on Friday, and I could easily see the Huskies or the Rams in the Vanier Cup in Regina. I really could. The Rams would hate watching Saskatoon roll in there, Saskatchewan roll in there, but they could be in the game at home. They really could. This is a great year to get excited for football in Saskatchewan.
Well, I know you're very excited to get home and call that game. So before I let you go, I'm sure we'll be talking before Friday, but I'll say safe travels. I do want to dip in on this, and it's just going to be me, folks, for 40 minutes after Darren leaves until Mike Richards joins us, the iconic sportscaster Mike Richards. NFL Power Rankings, Moose. I'm not sure what's more exciting, the top 5 or the bottom 5, but this is from USA Today. Number 1 team in the NFL, Philadelphia. Number 2, Buffalo. Number 3, Green Bay. Number 4, Baltimore. Number 5, the LA Rams. And I always like looking at the bottom. The bottom 5, at the very, very bottom, is the Miami Dolphins, 32nd. 31st, Cleveland. 30th, Carolina. 29th, your Tennessee Titans. And 28th, New Orleans. How do those grab you?
They do. You know, it's funny. Green Bay's in the top 5, but I think they're still underappreciated. I think they're, looked at as the second best team in the NFL when it comes to betting odds. They might have even surpassed Philadelphia when it comes to Super Bowl odds. Crazy how good the Green Bay Packers are right now. So I think they're a little undervalued, even though they're in the top 5. And my Titans, it's funny, they're 0-2. The pass that Cam Ward made to the Canadian, Alec Manor, for the touchdown, ridiculous. I think people are actually pretty optimistic about Tennessee. And I think they're trending up, even though they're not winning games. And that's kind of what you need from a team that's rebuilding, is all these positive signs, even when you're not winning games, and people talking positively about you. In the NHL, that's how I talked last year about the San Jose Sharks. The way I talked about them and saw them and watched them play, you would have thought they were contending for a cup. And they weren't winning any games, but the process was starting to be there. Tennessee needs to protect the quarterback and stop taking penalties, and that might be more of a coaching issue than anything.
You think the Sharks are going to make the playoffs this year?
They're going to be more in the mix than they were last year. I don't know if they're a playoff team yet, but they're going to take another step forward.
It's funny because probably in my weekend column this weekend, I will put in my final division prediction for the National Hockey League, the Metropolitan Division. I've been through all the others. I've still got San Jose missing the playoffs. I had the Vancouver Canucks finishing dead last in their division. It deeply offended the Hughes family, Kevin and Jake, the hosts of the Hughes Sports Podcast. But I don't see a way in that tough Pacific Division that Vancouver gets into the playoffs, especially when I got Calgary in there. And it was nice being in Calgary this summer to have a little positivity around the Flames. I mean, you spent a lot of time with me in Calgary over the years. I host those golf tournaments out there. I remember the one Rocky Mountain Rotary Classic. I said, show of hands, who's excited about the Flames this year? This is in July, everybody. 4 hands go up, and they are all Flames alumni. Joel Otto, Tim Hunter, the usual. They have to. But do you think the Flames make the playoffs this year?
I do. They got Dustin Wolf locked up. I think there's a lot of positivity in Calgary, and they're going the right way. Vancouver's interesting. I saw somebody say that Elias Pedersen has put on some weight, put on some muscle, and could be poised to have a big breakout year. And not that he hasn't had one already, but like to really become the player that they need him to be. That's how Vancouver becomes a playoff team, is if he's leading the way, and he needs to be a superstar for the Canucks.
Isn't it nice how we just weave our way in and amongst our topics here? I'm not going to say that we'll even stay on the road at all once Moose adjourns, but the NHL coverage is coming back. I'm enjoying it. I saw that JT Miller was named captain of the New York Rangers this week, and I'm like, you saw that? And I'm like, well, from everything I've heard, we're off right away. They're telling me we're off right away, Moose. 10 seconds. Okay. Thanks for coming on. Safe travels this week.
All right. Thank you.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, everybody. The RP show continues. As you were warned, it's just me and you for the next two segments, right up until the top of the hour and then into hour two. And then my good friend Mike Richards will be joining us, the iconic Canadian sportscaster now of Fan 960 Calgary. But I saved these text comments, 902-518-3033 for Western Dodge. From trucks to SUVs, Western Dodge has what you're looking for. Visit them online at westerndodge.ca. Where do I start? Allie in Texas watching. She says, I enjoyed the prospect games between Dallas and Detroit this past weekend. Those youngsters have grit. I don't think you were here yesterday, were you, Allie? I spent the weekend in the Florida Keys with my guy Brent from Wellington, Florida, and the gang. And we were sitting around, and I said, hey, are you guys following the prospect games? Because the Panthers were playing the Lightning, and I can't remember who. Usually it's Carolina and Nashville. They all get together for the rookie showcase. And they're all like, no. And I'm like, I wasn't really either. There's just some, but having said that, I did tune in, and I did watch Dave Randorf and Brian Engblom in the game that the Panthers played the Lightning, which the Lightning won 3-2, but oh my gosh. But the argument is on who's going to be better this year, the Canucks or the Flames. And Allie says, story time with Rod? You ask me what story you would like, and I'll try and find one, because I got a million. I wouldn't even know where to start. But Bomber Boy writes in and he says, explain to me how the Flames got better from last season. At least the Nucks removed the cancer from the team and JT Miller. Here's the thing that you all, not all of you, but the vast, vast majority of you don't understand. There are people that are in the game and have worked in the game that are watching right now. They get it. They understand. They'll be sitting here nodding their head when I say this. It's not about necessarily who you sign in free agency or who you draft. It's about the culture. And the Flames culture, I don't mind saying it, has been horrific for decades. A lot of us know why. But the biggest reason, it's been gone for a while, but the culture remained. And I got to give credit to Craig Conroy and Ryan Huska for coming in there. And however they did it, I don't know. But I have so many friends that work for the Flames and have and do. And they say it's night and day in terms of culture. That team last year had no business getting 96 points. So, yeah, were they as busy in free agency as their fans would have liked? Probably not. But Darren said they got Dustin Wolf locked up. They're going to get that much better. Now, they got that Rasmus Anderson who wants out of there, and I'm getting the sense the Flames are like, you don't want to be around? Bye. That's the whole thing. Blake Coleman wants to be there. There are guys that want to be there. And it used to not be the case. I don't need to name names. But the Flames culture has kind of changed to, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you. And that is a very valuable thing. Whereas with the Vancouver Canucks, you're starting over with another coach again. I've said it many times. I don't want Canucks fans mad at me, but more than anything, I'm just saying what you all know. You just don't want to hear it. Canucks culture hasn't changed, and that's why you keep firing coaches and coaches and coaches. I heard Bruce Boudreau on NHL radio saying a while back, he goes, they're doing the same thing to Tocchet that they did to me. And while I don't specifically know what that is, I got an idea what that is. Pointing the finger at him, saying he's the problem. That's what happens in organizations with culture problems. And I'm so blessed to be here in Florida covering two teams that don't have those problems, the Panthers and the Lightning. Nope. Shout out tonight, going live on YouTube with the Cats and Rats Atlantic Division preview tonight. Kirby's anchoring that. Our dog, the host of the Cats and Rats podcast. Speaking of, I'll tell you what. Okay, story time. You asked for it, Allie. Glenn in Medicine Hat writes in, he says, I played golf with Brian Engblom years ago in the Okanagan. Great stories from his days with the Habs. He was a rookie the year they won 59 games. Tell you what, last year or 2 years ago, my good friend Dave Randorf, the television voice of the Lightning, introduced me to Brian Engblom. And me sitting up on the bald Canadian prairie for all these years, I wondered, why is Brian Engblom the color guy for the Tampa Bay Lightning? He was retired long before the Lightning were even in the league. But then once I met him, I get it. There was like a halo of God's light around Brian Engblom, and I don't say that obviously facetiously at all. He's a special human being. I think he's a day one guy on the air with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Brian Engblom, clearly got to be friends with Phil Esposito from somewhere along the way, the original owner. Just saying, Engblom he's all that. And that's one thing I enjoy about hobnobbing around National Hockey League. There's a lot of guys like Brian Engblom. There's a lot of guys that just have the glow. Lanny has it. Bomber Boy writes in, he goes, culture? The Jets can relate. I also agree that the Flames were the world's greatest overachievers last season. I don't know the deal with the Jets. I don't know. I don't know as many people that work with the Jets. And the ones that I know that have, what they tell me isn't good, but they've been gone for a while. We were talking earlier about great redemption stories. And thank you, by the way, for lobbing me some softballs and comments that I can get into some stuff here. We're talking about Baker Mayfield being shown the door in Cleveland and shown the door in Carolina and having a cup of coffee with the Rams, but only until Stafford got healthy again and was teamless until Tampa Bay took a flyer on him, and all he's ever done is win the NFC South every year that he's there. Baker Mayfield. Great redemption story there. Paul Maurice, I mean, come on. They will be putting a statue of Paul Maurice eventually outside of Merritt Bank Arena here in Sunrise, Florida, for what he's done. And the guy wasn't even ever going to coach again after his time in Winnipeg. It's a hell of a story where, again, you need to follow these teams to get it. But Paul Maurice was on a fishing boat in the middle of summer when Bill Zito called him and said, would you consider coaching the Panthers? And Paul was like, I'm done coaching. Look how this turned out. And to be honest, I'll be very honest, there's a lot of Panthers people that have tried to dig out of Paul Maurice what went on in Winnipeg, and he won't say. He's just that kind of guy. He won't say. Too classy. Looking forward, not back. You got to admire that, don't you? From the audience, Gary in Winnipeg writes in, he says, good morning, guys. Sad news this morning with the passing of Robert Redford at age 89. Rest in peace. How many of you, well, we do lead the league in older viewers. They all remember Robert Redford. I was going to say Burt Reynolds. This morning, Mike Florio was comparing Baker Mayfield to John Wayne, and he's like, nobody even knows who John Wayne is anymore. How sad is that? But I remember Robert Redford, the natural. I didn't know he passed. Kenny in Vancouver, Vancouver writes in, he says, rest in peace, Orca Weisblatt, who tragically passed away in a car accident in Nanaimo, BC on Sunday. He was set to play for the Allen Americans in the East Coast Hockey League. He has two brothers, Ozzy, who was on the Nashville Predators roster, and his brother Oasis, who won the WHL championship last year with the Medicine Hat Tigers. Condolences to the Weisblatt family. God loves you, Orca. Thank you, Kenny, for acknowledging that. And Ozzy Weisblatt, just a fantastic Prince Albert Raider. I have his bobblehead, actually. Steve in Steinbach, Manitoba writes in, he says, the Blue Jays are 5-up now. What a debut last night from the rookie pitcher. His family in the stands was very emotional. Well, for those that don't know, let's get into the sports update here for UFZ Moose Jaw. The visiting Toronto Blue Jays will be aiming to extend their win streak to 6 games when they face the Tampa Bay Rays tonight in the second of a 4-game series. The Jays, who lead the AL East by 5 games over the Yankees, will have Jose Barrios on the mound. Rays have righty Ryan Pepio starting tonight. This is what Steve was referring to. 22-year-old pitching prospect Trey Yesavage had an impressive debut for the Jays last night after allowing a Yandy Diaz RBI double in the first inning. The right-handed Yesavage shut down the host Tampa Bay Rays, finishing with 9 strikeouts, a Blue Jays record for a debut. 2 walks and 3 hits over 5 innings of work. He was selected 20th overall by the Blue Jays in the 2024 MLB draft. Toronto pitchers combined for 10 scoreless innings after the first inning. And Tom Brady plans to play alongside current and former NFL stars in a 3-team flag tournament in Saudi Arabia next year. The 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback and Fox Sports analyst made the announcement yesterday. The Fanatics Flag Football Classic on March 21st also will include Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, and Rob Gronkowski, among others. Las Vegas's Pete Carroll, Denver's Sean Payton, and San Francisco's Kyle Shanahan will be the coaches. The sports update is brought to you by Ultimate Fan Zone Moose Jaw. It's where I got this Blue Jays top. Collectors, listen up. Hockey cards, autographs, and fan memorabilia, all at Ultimate Fan Zone. Don't wait. Shop ultimatefanzone.ca. As I say, it's like Jersey City used to be. I like a store that you can walk in and actually try something on. And Ultimate Fan Zone is exactly that. We'll continue this into the next hour. Rich in Edmonton writes in and he says, we saw the New York Jets version of Geno Smith last night. Shambolic. Yeah, I expected more. Allie in Texarkana says, I loved Robert Redford. Up Close and Personal is one of my favorite movies. Wasn't he the one with Demi Moore? Indecent Proposal. He was in that one, wasn't he? Yeah, Robert Redford passing away at age 89 today. There's a lot of people thinking about their mortality, I'm sure. We'll be back in hour 2. Mike Richards joins us coming up right after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show. Hour 2 coming in hot here on the Game Plus Television Network, coast to coast, Canada-wide in 32 U.S. states. Glad to have you aboard here with episode, 1577. And we've got some breaking news to get to. We're talking sports here. That's what we do every day. Coming up in the next segment, Mike Richards will join us, the iconic Canadian sportscaster. He is on the Mount Rushmore of Canadian sports talk hosts. Mike Richards will join us from Fan 960 Calgary. And before we re-up the quick 6 show topics and get you all caught up on what you've missed for those latecomers, we've got breaking news. Gary in Winnipeg writing in and informing us that Robert Redford has passed away at the age of 89. And now I understand we do have a wide scope of viewers on this show. Our ratings tell us that, but we do skew towards the 55 plus. So the fact that Robert Redford passing away at the age of 89 affects a lot of our viewing audience. And it's interesting because John Ohm, where's my gong? Says Robert Redford, the GOAT of the movies. Would I go that far? I wouldn't. Glenn, watching in Medicine Hat, says, I'll watch The Sting tonight in honor of Robert Redford. The movie won 7 Academy Awards in 1974. We talked about Indecent Proposal that he was in. And Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, All the President's Men with him and Dustin Hoffman. Outstanding movie. I feel like that would be a pretty good poll question. Who is the GOAT of Hollywood? For me, it's not Robert Redford. I would skew towards Burt Reynolds or Reg Dunlop, which to me, Paul Newman will always be Reg Dunlop from the movie Slapshot. But there's no correct answer to this. Okay. Let's go to the quick six show topics here, because we got a really good poll question today. We're opening up with baseball, and I see there is a lot of latecomers joining the party here. So this is what we've been talking about. And Darren Moose Dupont was with us 1 hour ago. Point one, Trey Yesavage struck out 9 batters over 5 innings to set a Toronto record for a major league debut. And George Springer hit a tie-breaking single in the 11th as the visiting Blue Jays won their 5th game in a row with a 2-1 decision over the Tampa Bay Rays on Monday. Very impressive major league debut for Trey Yesavage. And I know the Blue Jays fans are going nuts. Moose is in Toronto. He said the city's on fire. But here's what's interesting about that. I'm sitting here in South Florida where the Marlins are never on fire, and everybody has a different favorite team. So I'm following the Blue Jays. They're very hard to get. I'll be able, fortunately, to watch the Tampa Bay feed all week with the Blue Jays at the Rays. But I had a guy ask me the other day if I thought the Mets were going to miss out on a wild card spot. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I got my hands full. I'm following the Blue Jays. That's about it, because we got point two to get to. Football. Monday Night Football doubleheader. The visiting Los Angeles Chargers scored 17 points in the first half and then hung on for a 20-9 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders in NFL play. It was a dud of a football game, but there's a delicious talking point coming out of it. Hang on. That was the late game. And in the early game, quarterback Baker Mayfield led an 11-play, 80-yard drive capped by Rachaad White's 2-yard touchdown run with 6 seconds to go. And the visiting Tampa Bay Buccaneers rallied past the Houston Texans 20-19 in the opener. That was the game of the night. And I didn't think it would be, but that's why we all have to tune in, right? And this is the thing. I don't know what it is. I don't profess to be any kind of a football aficionado at all. Certainly not a scout. There are people that do that and do it very well. But I look at all the teams that passed on Baker Mayfield. Having said that, Cleveland did take him number 1, which was a surprise. He wasn't even rated number 1. But then they went and got Deshaun Watson, and that ended the days for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. Bounced around the league. Carolina, Los Angeles, finds a home in Tampa Bay, and I love a comeback story. And I just sit there and go, going back to his days at Oklahoma, can you not see the size of the heart in this kid? He's not very big. I met him at Super Bowl a couple of years ago. He's maybe 5'10". I'm not joking. Should have known that any game featuring Baker Mayfield would be the game of the night, and that's what happened last night. By the way, our NFL coverage is brought to you by Pump Jack's Cathedral and Pump Jack's Weyburn. Pump Jack's Steakhouse and Saloon. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. Coming out of the game in Vegas, Moose agreed with me. Everybody's talking about this. I don't know about in your world, but in mine, what I've heard on the radio, like when I was going to the gym this morning, turned on the radio, first thing I heard was Joe Rose. He's like the biggest Miami sports talk guy, and he played for the Dolphins. He currently does color commentary for the Dolphins as well. And he's on the radio in the morning. I called him the Carm Carteri of Miami. Played for the team, got into the media, had a hell of a career. And everybody just hangs on what he says. And he took a break from complaining about the Dolphins to talk about Tom Brady. And he's like, why is he allowed to be an owner and then also be the number 1 color analyst on the NFL on Fox? And I'd like to put this to Mike Richards when he joins us in the next segment. He'll have thoughts. He's got thoughts on everything. Nobody really seemed to care. This is not new. Last year was the first year of this arrangement. But last night was the first night we all saw Tom Brady in the coach's box with a headset on and a suit. But I'm sitting there watching going, what? He's in the coach's suite? Coach's box? Tom Brady? Now, you walk it back and go, well, look, if they're smart at all, they would pick his, it's one thing to pick his brain on a Tuesday. You know, the coaches are all sitting around having some sandwiches. Hey, Tom, what do you think about, Geno Smith and his drops? That's one thing. To have him actively involved in the coach's suite, that's wrong. And to me, and that is our poll question for EMJ Marketing. Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information at emjmarketing.com. Should Tom Brady be allowed to be an owner, which he is with the Vegas Raiders, and also a broadcaster on Fox because it's against league rules. And frankly, a year ago when this first came up, because I listen to Mike Florio every single day. He runs ProFootballTalk.com. He's on NBC Sunday Night Football or whatever they call it, Football Night in America. He's been upset about this for a year. Nobody cared. But they cared enough that the owners met on it and voted on it in the offseason at their meetings. And they're like, let's let it slide. Because I will guarantee you the coaches are pissed off about this, and probably at least half the GMs in the league. And now you see the fracture that I talk about all the time, that the people that have worked in sports know, but the people that are fans don't. The fracture between the owners and the coaches and the GMs. Because the coaches will know having Tom Brady involved gives the Raiders an unbelievable competitive advantage. Even just a smidgen of a sliver when the pressure is so high in pro sports, especially the NFL, and the Raiders get an edge like this to have Tom Brady in the coaches suite, and he's allowed to be on the air on Fox and talk to the other coaches on the other teams as he gets ready for those broadcasts every Sunday. It's just not really right. Now, having said that, it didn't work last night. The Raiders lost 20-9, but this is also the first year that it's happened to this degree. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had Mike Davis on from the Vegas Nighthawks Indoor Football League team, long-time friend of mine, and I said, how involved do you think Tom Brady is with the Raiders? Said it on the air. And I couldn't believe Mike's response was more than they let on. Last night we saw it. And Moose said that they were rubbing it in everybody's face. I'm like, I don't agree with that. They're just not hiding it. They're just not hiding it. You think they brought Tom Brady into the ownership group to represent the team at parties? Go set up inflatables on fan day? No. Tom Brady was brought in to help them win. And they will win, maybe not this year, but eventually. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in and he says, I love Tom Brady as a player, but him as an owner and announcer in meetings with teams is total BS. That's another thing that people don't understand. There is a rule. I saw the rules. I don't totally remember what they all are, what Tom Brady has to follow. And one of them is he's not allowed to meet with teams or players at the facility. And maybe even not the hotel. So we'll go to a Starbucks a couple blocks down the street. Are you kidding me? That's the one thing I've never understood. Team presidents, team owners don't understand how we talk. Those of us on the front lines, the foot soldiers. If we want to talk, we're going to talk. Rich in Edmonton writes, and he says, if you've seen the documentary on Tom and his over-involvement with Birmingham City, a sport he knows not much about, it was not a surprise to see him in the booth last night. But I don't know how that soccer team's doing because I don't follow soccer at all. But it's just shocking if anybody didn't think that Tom Brady was not going to be involved in football operations with the Las Vegas Raiders. The fact that the owners didn't is laughable. I'm sitting here now wondering by the time this season comes to a conclusion if this will be allowed to continue. Oh, that's what our coaches were talking about. Yeah, that's what they've been trying to get through to you, owners. But again, they would have sat around. All leagues are the same. The owners would have sat around and said, what's best for the NFL? What's best for the NFL is having Tom Brady involved in everything as much as possible. And so they are. That is what's best for the NFL as a league. What's best for your team is to not have him on the television broadcast. So anyways, I voted no. Darren voted yes. It's fine for him to do both. Who is it here? Oh, Brendan writes in as we were talking about the goats of Hollywood. Somebody said Robert De Niro. You know, I love Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. It's very hard, I would think, to pick one. We certainly couldn't put it in a poll. There's not enough options. Bomber Boy writes in from Calgary. He says, how far away are you from the temporary Rays Stadium, Rod? I am 3.5 hours away. Florida's a big state. That where the Rays are playing is right across the street from the Buccaneers Stadium, George Steinbrenner Field. I'm 40 miles north of Miami. It's a long ways away. Glenn in Medicine Hat writes in, which, by the way, his latest 10 WHL Things column is up at rodpeterson.com right now. Go check it out. I love me some Dub. Glenn says, I enjoy Clint Eastwood. Frankly, it wouldn't bother me at all if our police services employed hundreds of Harry Callahans these days. Go ahead, punk. Make my day. We really had a good era to grow up in, didn't we? I feel like if Joe Lazito is watching in New York, 7 years ago when we started this show, I sat there and thought, am I too old? Am I too past my prime with my references? And Joe goes, no, you're vintage. Oh, okay, if that's what they call it. You know, we're talking about a guy who may or may not be on this show from time to time. We were referencing him a while back, and I said, he thinks he's Tom Selleck. Somebody said, you might want to update that. Okay. Magnum P.I., the original. Even if we said Brad Pitt, I think he thinks he's Zac Efron. And then we just lost the old people. Rich in Edmonton, who is one of the biggest Vegas Raiders fans I know, he says, I think Mark Davis, the Raiders owner, brought him into the ownership group to be heavily involved in football ops. Why else would he give him 5%? Yeah, for sure. I say Mark Davis looks dumb. He's not dumb. I'll say that before we go on Vegas television every day. Strike that from the record. John Ohm in Winnipeg says, the most famous person you have met, Rod? It's John Candy. We covered that last week that I interviewed. John Candy. Allie writes in, she says, it was the best of times, Rod. Yeah, growing up in that era with all those great actors. Jeff the Stamps fan says Robert De Niro just needs to stay out of political talk. I feel like we all do. This was an easy one, the Charlie Kirk thing for me. I don't even know who the guy is. I don't watch the political shows. Charlie Kirk, couldn't tell you one thing he said. So now everybody's walking back things he said over the years. I don't know what to believe. So I'll just stay out of it. That was an easy one. Oh, and by the way, we got hung up on Tom Brady and the quick six show topics here, and that's fine. But point 4 was Sidney Crosby. Let's just put this to bed. Sidney has said, quote, this is where I want to be. He wants to retire as a Pittsburgh Penguin, which when we talked about this last week, I said he would. He's won his cups. He doesn't want to leave. When I was his age, I didn't want to leave where I was either. So I get it. And I think he would have talked to Mario, and Mario would have just said, hey, why would you leave? What are you chasing? That would be my guess. Those two are very, very close in Pittsburgh. We got a lot of topics to get to with Mike Richards when he joins us next on the Mount Rushmore of iconic Canadian sports broadcasters. As a matter of fact, I think he takes up 2 spots. Wouldn't you say, Mike? We'll be coming right back on Game Plus TV right after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, everybody. Fresh looks, fan favorites, and RP Show exclusives, all at rodpedersen.com. Click on RP Show store, mugs, hats, hoodies. We got it all. T-shirts. Okay, Mike Richards, the iconic Canadian sports broadcaster. Before we get to the sports, Robert Redford passing away today at age 89. Who's the GOAT of Hollywood, Mike? If it's not Robert Redford, who is it? Yeah, in your mind, who is it?
Oh, no, if you're going to put him as the GOAT, I have no problem with that. The guy was magic. You know, he's one of these people that, you know, as soon as even as a kid, you know, watching like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, you know, you just see literally like this, there's an aura, right? It was like this glow of this blonde hair, those looks, and then just, you know, his voice. I mean, this is when, you know, when we talk about the greatest of all time, I got no problem saying Robert Redford was the greatest of all time. And here's the irony: in Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, there was that lead actress, you know, that was on the big bicycle, you know, the girl with the dark hair, that big romantic scene. My wife looks exactly like that actress. I can't think of her name right now, but that
Your wife's
I did
name?
well. I outkicked my coverage. I
You
used
can't think of your
cough
wife's
syrup.
name?
What's that? Oh no!
You said you
Well,
can't-
I want to say Linda, but don't hold me to that.
Gotcha. Okay, moving on. Our poll question today: should Tom Brady be allowed to own a team in the NFL and also be the lead analyst on Fox? You saw him in the coach's suite last night with a headset on. What do you think?
If that's the worst thing you can think of with one of these guys in the NFL that owns an NFL franchise, that you simply don't know the guys who own NFL franchises and the stuff that they've been involved with. This should be the least of your concerns that he's an analyst The other things that some of these guys have pulled in their lifetime is hardly on the same level. Look, I like I keep calling him, I like that boy. He's never aged. I don't know if you've ever seen Interview with a Vampire, but at some point I don't know how long he keeps those looks and just his ability to have that enthusiasm. I've got no problem with that. I mean, considering what the Raiders have been owned by before, are you telling me that in the Al Davis world that he'd be concerned that someone was actually on television talking about games? Yeah. There was a time if you said something about Al, you could be floating face down in the water somewhere. So you know what? I don't have a problem with Tom Brady being part owner.
Okay, cool. All right. Those are the two things I wanted to ask you about, Robert Redford and Tom Brady. What has your sports focus these days, Mike Richards?
Well, I would say that aside from, getting into, or to me, the meat of the CFL, because it has been just what a crazy run. What I've seen the Alouettes taking out the Riders. I mean, I sat there with my mouth open. It was just unbelievable what had happened. But the one thing that, aside of what a cat and dog sort of race this has been in the Canadian Football League, is my continual disappointment at the level of football in the NFL in terms of their preparedness. Now, when you have a preseason that is absolutely the biggest waste of time, you're not going to see the starters. You're certainly not going to see the starting quarterback. It's a great exercise for the coaching staff. I get all that. I've coached football. I love football. You and I both come from the same area where we like all kinds of football. We're not just stagnant, sticking at, statically at one league. We like all of it. But at some point, they're going to have to address it. Now, I know they want to play more games, so maybe this is what they do. They get rid of a couple of those waste of time preseason. But by the time you get to week one, even into week two, how many flags have you seen? How many offensive linemen are jumping the snap count because they don't know it? How many times the ball being thrown behind guys, guys out of position? Even the coaching. Yes, the coaching. Well, last night, 12 guys on the field. It's not a CFL game. I'm watching this thing thinking, what is the problem is by the time you get to week one, I don't think we really know, Rod, that we can see the potential or the draw of what that team is going to be by what, week three? No. Maybe four, but it's definitely into week number 3 because some teams just don't look like they're ready to play football. And when you're looking at the cash cow that the NFL is, the kinds of prices that guys like Jerry Jones and everybody else and all the other billionaires are charging these people to even get seat licensing. Yeah, I didn't think that'd be a thing as a kid. Seat licenses. Now you're going to sit there and see a team that just really, even Houston at times last night were so disjointed. It was just really difficult to watch. So that's the one thing that's been on my radar is just how bad are some of these guys going to be in the first couple of weeks, because I love as I said, football is something that I love. I love big time players. Watching Josh Allen to me is just a thing of beauty. I'm such a fan of his, have been since he and his dad worked on him getting out of high school, trying to find even one school that would give him a shot. And even when he gets to the school, they're not so sure. And then when he gets to the NFL, guys that I absolutely respect were like, what would you possibly see in this guy, Mike? I don't even know why you even talk about this guy. He's a great story. He's a really good person. And he has proved that he's ready to go. But I got to tell you, Rod, the rest of the league at times, I mean, just take a look in the mirror, because those first 2 weeks, some of these teams are dreadful. And look at the injuries. I'm not blaming all of it on the fact, because it can happen anytime. It is a contact league with some of the biggest human beings you'd ever see. But there's still that aching thing in the back of that just says to me, take week one seriously. Can you just do that for us? We're paying for it. You're getting a lot of money. Week one, look like a professional team.
Mm-hmm. Well, and hey, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm watching that New York-Dallas game, and the Giants alone took 14 penalties for 160 yards, and the Cowboys weren't much better, but it ended up being an epic ending, so that saved it. You mentioned the CFL. I'm glad you did. You're such a huge CFL fan. I'm looking at this, and I have fun with the Argo fans who wrote off their team at 2-8. Now Friday they got Montreal in town, and if the Argos win, it'll be their 4th straight win, and they'll be in a playoff spot to host with 4 games to go. It's like the league just every year is zany. And it's like people forget that this could happen.
It is zany, and sometimes I find it disappointing. If you live in what they call the GTA, so if you live in Southern Ontario, in the Toronto area, I can honestly say, for the places I've moved to, the places I've visited here in Canada and the U.S., that Toronto is a horrific football market. It is terrible. If you come from places like Quebec, where junior football is big, where university football is big, when you come from out west, when you're in Saskatchewan, when you're in Manitoba, Calgary, parts of BC, where football is a part of your family's life. The kids are going to play high school football. You go to the games. You hope that they go to college. There is almost none of that here. None of it. So to have a football conversation with someone in Toronto usually means it's going to be an NFL fantasy football conversation. It's going to be about the Buffalo Bills. My friends, that is not a football conversation. It just isn't. It's metrics, it's analytics. When you talk about fantasy football, you may have never played the game, or even you wouldn't even have to watch it. If you're a mathlete, you can probably be pretty good at reading numbers each and every week and kind of guessing at what you think you're going to see. That's not a football conversation. So when you start talking about the Argos, I feel bad for the 10 to 14,000 people that go every single week and probably have since the 70s. They're marvelous people. I know a lot of them. God bless them, because they're people like Lori Bursey. I mean, you're just not going to meet a more lovely woman than that. And they show up, they watch this team for the most part work their guts out. It's not like they're not trying to win. And then they have a huge announcement, and there's Vince Carter, there's Doug Flutie, and they're talking about how they're going to bring the Buffalo Bills as a partner and into the league. And I'm like, I just don't know how many more insulting waves of disappointment you can have as an Argonaut fan, because quite frankly, that was just the most insulting thing that I've ever seen, and very dangerously. And I'm not a skies falling guy. You know, I'm a glass half full, but you start bringing this kind of stuff in there and having Doug saying, well, when they see that the Buffalo Bills are a part of the CFL and the Argos, the young kids will get excited. No, they won't. No, that is not something that entices you to watch their product. They're saying, but hey, look over here. Let's talk about Buffalo. They're not talking about starting lineups. They're not talking about who the running back is. They're not talking about, the receiving core, or how they had to replace the defensive. They're not talking about football things. They're trying to do smoke and mirrors. And trust me, there's only so much more, I think, and so much devastation you can take from a marketing standpoint in Toronto. And that, to me, Rod, was a real dagger and was a real sword into the heart of all those people, as I said, the 14,000 strong that go on a daily basis, because that's not going to put them to 25,000. Why would you think being interested in another team in another league in another city is going to bolster what is already a stagnant football market? It's a disaster, and I got a bad feeling about this one.
So why would MLSE do it?
I don't think they have a huge love for the Argos at all. I don't see, in terms of their holdings, would they really be upset if somehow there was the death of the CFL in Toronto? And look, there's lots of guys there's lots of big names who've taken a run at wanting to have an NFL team here in Toronto, which I said would never happen. Now I'm not so sure. And those names are big and they got money. Hello, John Bon Jovi. I mean, you got guys like that who are friends of the Gillette family. You got friends who are, Jerry Jones guys. I mean, that old boy, the old school club where, if they found the land and they get, and look, they look at places of significance here in Toronto that I know a lot of people don't know about, but I certainly do. It was closer than you think. And that's a little scary. But if MLSE had their way to sort of just watch them die on the vine, that the Argos I'm talking about, where it appeared to be something dying naturally. It's kind of what corporate sports media has done to sports radio in this country, where they keep saying, see, it's not popular anymore. Sports radio is dying. People aren't interested. But it's because you keep wiping out everybody that could bring audience to sports radio. You have slowly basically made it eat its own young. And now you're sitting there with a handful of these, kind of sports nerds that are sitting there on the radio. It's not that they don't know what they're talking about. They're just not broadcasters. They're just not telling a story. There's just no engagement. I mean, they want to sit there and tell you how smart they are about how their fantasy leagues are working in every sport. That is not broadcasting, my friends. And so therefore, they pay them very minimal money. Everyone else sits on the sideline. It's one of the reasons I came back. It's one of the reasons, because I'm not going to be told when I'm done. I'm not going to be told, just like you. You're not going to be told when you're done. So this thing that I've done is coming back, and it's gaining a lot of momentum. Maybe momentum that some people didn't want to see. But at the same time, I mean, I just think that, you just have to be honest about the business that you're in. And when I take a look at MLSE and this so-called ownership of Toronto, seriously? Well, I don't remember the last ad I saw. I don't know what the marketing campaign is. I think they just have this on television. They put them at the BMO Field and hope that people show up. But maybe deep down, maybe the elephant in the room, maybe they hope people aren't going to show up. World Cup, how many home games? Well, none. They'll have no home games next year.
Let me stop you for a sec. BC Eric writes in and he says, I love this guy. Eric from BC. Skycron, our producer, Corey says, okay, I'm 100% with Mike here. Word. At my own peril, I'll say this, Mike. You talked about how they wiped out sports radio. All the managers are still there. Just saying.
Yeah. What a shocker that is. And guys who have managed it for like 3 years. I mean, you start explaining to them about, maybe what you might want to do production-wise, and they're like, production? What's that?
I
mean,
I
music.
don't even know what the answer is. It's just
no.
the guys that were telling me what to do, still there. I'm not sure what they do, but
I
making big salaries.
I want to talk about something that you had mentioned earlier in the show, and I thought it was a very, very, very good point. I hope people didn't miss exactly what it was that you said. When people started talking about the Calgary Flames and saying, wow, they didn't go out, they didn't get this player, they didn't, they had to unload and bringing, part of a successful franchise and the many that I've seen through the decades and what they do, a big part of it is what you talked about, and that is culture. At some point, you have to change the culture, and one that players want to be a part of. So I've talked to Craig Conroy a couple of times, including at the end of the season, and said, what is it that you need to do that's going to show not only the players on the team, but the rest of the league that you're serious about team building? That's exactly what he's done, including the Dustin Wolf signing, Coronado, his signing. And you go through those kinds of things, and you're like, let's settle and let's get our house right first before we just go to the vault and unload, because that's always, and to me, that's always a mistake. You can't fix those problems with just money. You can't just go out there and get the biggest name that's available and think that magically it's going to happen. I mean, look at the franchise that tried to do that over the years in any sport. Name the sport. I can tell you the team where just doing that didn't work. So Connie is basically saying, this is what we have. Now, will guys like Anderson and certain players sort of be dished off or made to make the actual that culture stronger? Yeah, because that's how you build. But you don't do it by just getting your checkbook out, and I think that's exactly what Connie proved.
Keep going, man. Like the fans said, what did the Flames do in the offseason? Doesn't matter. Like, that's the thing about the culture. Craig was a player, and not every GM was the guy in Vancouver isn't with the Canucks. They need now, Mike, to know where they stand. Huska said that the day he was hired. The players want to know where they stand. Sure, it's annoying, but they need to know. These young players need to know. Where are we going? How do you feel about me? And the Flames people understand that. Not every team does. This current Flames team understands that.
I think the ownership understands that, and sometimes that's where the battle is. When you have that discrepancy between what owners think and then the actual administration of the sport think. I mean, this is why, God bless you being a Cowboys fan, but
don't.
that is a tough play. Hey, have you watched the Netflix special on the Cowboys and Gamblers? Have you seen that?
Watched that of the first day it came out. I watched all 8 episodes. Yeah. Are you kidding?
Yeah. He was great on Landman. I don't know if you ever watched Landman. Landman, oh my God, that's a good show. I love that show.
I threw my shoe at the TV when he was on there talking to John Hamm at his bedside. I'm like, you should be running the Cowboys, not pretending to be an actor.
He was doing a better job of that than being the owner. I got to be honest.
I know, buddy. Listen,
the Micah Parsons thing to me is just mind-boggling. Look. If anyone knows how to make money, it is that man. If anyone knows how to run something to get, let's face it. I don't know what the franchise was worth when he bought it. It was a couple $100 million, 100, 300,
170 million, I think.
So it's 13 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you don't know, but his ego gets in the way. And I think that the toughest thing in this world to be is a Dallas Cowboys fan. I really do.
Mike, or a Leaf fan. They're the same team.
Yeah. I think the Dallas Cowboys fans are just used to being angry, where you still talk to a Leaf fan, and it's just there's this delusional thing that this is going to be our year, and I'm like, buddy, you just don't drink enough. Your problem, you got to have more Alberta.
Yeah. No, I'm in the Cowboys nation. And the thing is, I don't go back and forth with them anymore because they're brainwashed like I think Leafs fans are. They are, Mike. You need to be in the fan base to understand. You can't say anything bad about Dak. And in a lot of cases, you can't say anything bad about Jerry. I'm like, you're all brainwashed. Yeah. The way that they treated Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb dropping 3 passes on opening night. That's what happens with a bad culture. People aren't held accountable there. It's one guy. So it's sad.
But it is interesting to talk about, again, getting back to the conversation of culture, and people say, well, it's just kind of a buzzword that you can use. It makes you sound like, you're sort of in tune with sports. I said, well, the reality is, and I go back to the only conversation I had with Marv Levy, and it was of all the interviews I've done over the years of many incredible football people. The Marv Levy interview was one of the most interesting because I started talking to him about those times where they continued to go back to the Super Bowl, even though they lost. And I said to Marv, I said, well, how is that a failure in terms of the program that you were building and that you had built? Now, I get ultimately that you want to, lift that championship, the world championship football trophy over your head. But how is it a failure that you achieve excellence each and every year? And to me, that's a winning program. And there's this pause, and I thought, oh man, here it comes. I'm really going to get it. He says, I love what you said, because it is a program, and that program was based on culture, and that's a culture that we created in the locker room. I was like, okay, well, we'll be back after this.
Hall of Famer. Speaking of, we're out of time. Mike, great job, man. Thanks for jumping on. The great, the inimitable Mike Richards of Fan 960 Calgary. We'll be right back with more here on Game Plus Television.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com Sept.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Back at it. Hour 2 brought to you in part by Outlaw Communications, where creativity isn't a hobby, it's a way of life. From strategic communications to leadership training and conversational content, we help your message connect and inspire. And also for the Mad Greek. Hungry late? The Mad Greek Eatery is open until 11 p.m. for dine-in, pick-up, or order online at themadgreekeatery.com. The fans are the Rod Squad. They're digging them some Mike Richards. BC Eric writes in. He says, another great guest, RP. John says, amazing segment with Mike. Love that dude. And Wayne in Victoria, BC says, that was a great segment with Mike Richards. So, yeah, they're digging it. Carlos in Indianapolis says, man, that segment flew. I'll tell you a little secret because I know so many of you are just getting on to me. So many are just getting on to Mike. Me being the voice of the Rough Riders for 20 years, he being the host of morning radio in Calgary for some 20 years. When we went in with the Rough Riders to play the Stampeders, when we went into their town, Mike would call me up and go, you want to come down to the studio morning of the game and do an hour? Yeah, I'd love to do that. And we would sit there and do like a WWF off the top rope, slinging crap at each other, and then shut off the mics and laugh and pat each other on the back. Problem is, the fans took it too far, thought we were serious, and it took me years to live that down. But I think we're there now. But the point being, Mike and I on the air together is a great thing. Rich in Edmonton says, too much of an anti-Edmonton guy, but all good. It was a shtick, Rich, what I just said. The Stamps fans hated me for what I was saying. You guys from Edmonton hate my... What's he supposed to do? He's the morning host on Calgary radio, and you guys don't say stuff about Calgary? Come on. As my friend Chris from the Bronx says, get the F out of here. Like when Brandon Aubrey kicked a 64-yard field goal to tie the game. Cowboys and against his Giants on the weekend. By the way, breaking news from the National Football League. The NFL announced today, this is from Adam Schefter, that Tom Brady, a minority owner with the Raiders and a broadcaster for Fox, is, quote, prohibited from going to a team facility for practices or production meetings, unquote. But he is allowed to sit in the coach's booth, per the league. And the headline from ESPN, NFL says Brady didn't violate rules in Raiders booth. Listen, you knew he wouldn't. You knew he wouldn't. You don't think when he was up on that grand jury thing and subsequently suspended for 4 games for his role in Deflategate, he didn't want to break the rules anymore? Have you ever broken the rules? It ain't fun. You don't want to do it again. I feel like Tom Brady is that kind of guy. You're not dumb. Who's dumb are the people that thought that this wasn't going to happen, that Tom Brady wasn't going to have a major influence on the Las Vegas Raiders. But one day he might end up on the sidelines. I'm not joking. 902-518-3033 text line. Jim in Balgoni writes in on the Western Dodge text line and says, great show, and Mike Richards too. It's just going to be fantastic. News out of Philadelphia. Flyers general manager Danny Briere said today the agent for free agent Carter Hart told the team the goalie has ruled out signing with the franchise when he's eligible to return to the NHL next month. Hart is one of 5 players who were acquitted of sexual assault charges stemming from an incident in 2018 when they were members of Canada's World Junior team. Saying that again, Flyers GM Danny Briere saying Carter Hart has ruled out the Flyers, not the other way around. It'll be interesting to see where he plays. The Blue Jays look to tighten their grip on first place in the American League East when they continue their series with the Rays tonight at George Steinbrenner Field. The Jays have a 5-game lead over the New York Yankees, won last night in extras. The sports update is brought to you by Ultimate Fan Zone. Collectors, listen up. Hockey cards, autographs, and fan memorabilia, all at Ultimate Fan Zone. Don't wait. Shop ultimatefanzone.ca. I did have a couple more items here. Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels is dealing with a knee injury, and his status for Washington's game Sunday against Las Vegas is unclear. And Minnesota quarterback J.J. McCarthy is expected to miss the Vikings' next game with a sprained ankle. He was hurt late in the third quarter of a 22-6 loss to Atlanta on Sunday. McCarthy threw 2 interceptions and had a fumble. Carson Wentz tabbed to start Sunday against Cincinnati. Overtime is coming up next, so it is your last chance to get your questions and comments in. If Robert Redford isn't the GOAT of Hollywood, and he passed away today at the age of 89, who is? I feel like there's a lot of people that could fit that bill. We'll be right back with Overtime after this here on Game Plus Television, YouTube Live, Mission Radio, and podcast.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and
Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge, Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca. Welcome back for Overtime, everybody. Proudly brought to you by Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, and I'm sure they're proud of today's show. I am. If it matters, I am, and I'm the host of it, the RP Show here on Game Plus Television and a variety of platforms. You never know what's going to come up. And I should tell you, by the way, Overtime Hockey Lanes is located at 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. Stop in there this winter when you're trucking through Calgary on a family trip, a hockey team road trip, whatever. Birthday parties, office parties, team parties, they got it all, plus a licensed beverage room. Overtime Hockey Lanes. Tell them, Randy and Michelle, that Rod sent you. It's the last chance you have to message me here. Western Dodge text line 902-518-3033. Mark in Burlington, Ontario has clarified the brunette in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Her name was Catherine Ross. Mike Richards was bringing that up earlier. To be honest, I can't place her. I was not a big fan of that show, nor Robert Redford, frankly. But hang on. I got the list of the top 10 most iconic Hollywood leading men coming your way. But Daryl from Calgary writes in on the Western Dodge text line, and he says, I have to say, knowing both of you, two of the premier sports radio personalities anywhere, RP and Mike Richards, throw in my good friend Jerry Forbes, legendary radio personality, and I have my perfect lunch group. Could sit and listen to the three of you for hours. Keep up the awesome job. Very nice of you to say, Daryl. Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel like the list, and ChatGPT, just so you know, way, way, way better than Google. Ain't even close. I Googled top 10 Hollywood leading men, and Ryan Reynolds was in that. What? No. Men. Here's your list. Do you want it from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1? What do you want, producer Corey? 10 to 1 or 1 to 10? I know it's a tough question. Hollywood leading men, 10 down to 1 or 1 up to 10? The most iconic Hollywood leading men list, according to ChatGPT. You want to start with number 1? Okay. Number 1 is Humphrey Bogart. Isn't he the guy that said, play it again, Sam? Known for his tough, world-weary charm in classics like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, often called the quintessential movie star of Hollywood's golden age, Humphrey Bogart. Play it again, Sam. Number 2, Clark Gable. Dubbed the King of Hollywood, most famous for Gone with the Wind and his suave, masculine screen presence. Number 3, Cary Grant, or as they said in the Flintstones, Cary Granite. Effortlessly charming and witty, a master of romantic comedies and thrillers alike. Number 4, James Stewart, or as he was known to his friends, Jimmy Stewart. Number 5, Marlon Brando. Revolutionized acting with raw emotional power in A Streetcar Named Desire, later defined a new era with The Godfather. Robert Redford ain't shown up yet, if anybody's noticed. Number 6, the Duke, John Wayne. They named an airport after him, for God's sakes. The ultimate screen cowboy and symbol of rugged Americana. Starred in classics like True Grit and Stagecoach. Number 7, Reggie Dunlop. No, 2 Mrs. Reggie Dunlop from Reggie Dunlop. Paul Newman. Number 7, the star of Slapshot. Number 8, Robert Redford, who passed today at the age of 89. That's why we're doing this list. Robert Redford embodied a mix of sophistication and ruggedness in films like The Sting, All the President's Men, and Out of Africa. Number 9, Tom Hanks. Would we put Tom Hanks in this list? They are. I'm not a good judge of men's handsomeness. I don't know that Tom Hanks strikes the pose of a Robert Redford or a Paul Newman, but they think so. Often called America's dad. I thought that was Bill Cosby. admired for his versatility and humanity, or at the very least, Ward Cleaver. And number 10, I'm quite impressed by Denzel Washington. Put me down for a yes for Denzel Washington. I listen to his videos every day. Look him up. Denzel Bay. A powerhouse of gravitas and intensity with iconic turns in Malcolm X, Training Day, and Glory. Honorable mentions could include Gregory Peck, Sidney Poitier, Leonardo DiCaprio, Al Pacino, and Harrison Ford, depending on whether you lean more classic Hollywood or modern era. I hope you enjoyed this impromptu trip down memory lane, complete with impersonations from a sportscaster over here. Rich in Edmonton says, I said Humphrey Bogart an hour ago. Wayne in BC says, I love me some Jimmy Stewart. I had people, when I was a lot younger, nicknamed me Jimmy Stewart. I never quite figured that out. Mike in Winnipeg from Ice Time Sports says, Tom Hanks should be higher. Okay. Skycron says, the friends, that's producer Corey, the friends of Mr. Cairo have spoken. Mr. Cairo or Caillou? I don't know what. Oh, it's good. It's good. Jeff the Stamps fan says Henry Fonda. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Arlen Bruce III, I apologize. You wrote in with an actual football related question. I didn't get to it because I got hung up in Hollywood leading men. You just never know where this show's going to go. Thanks to Mike Richards. We got the voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Josh Getzoff, coming up on the program tomorrow. I'll be alone in hour 1, so get your questions and comments ready, everybody. Consider yourself warned, producer Corey. Yeah, exactly. We'll see you all tomorrow, everybody.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?